welcome to a special interview with somebody. I'm going to introduce a caveat at the very start. He's a very dear friend of mine, so you might call me conflicted. Really don't care because I think the concept is fantastic. I have studied this. It is not as if I've heard of the concept yesterday and I'm doing the interview today. When it was launched last October, formal launch, on the 4th or the 5th of October, I had read about it. Since then, I've had multiple conversations with Gaurav Bahirvani, founder of Test 20. I'm absolutely convinced this can take off. This has real potential for youth cricket, for around the globe. So it's important that I understand a little bit more from Gaurav over the next half an hour, what exactly prompted the start and where exactly he wants to take this concept. So Gaurav, welcome. Great to see you after a while. Been a few years actually. Been a few years.
Yeah, it's been a few years.
Yeah, it has been a few years. I mean, glad to see the success of the concept. It's been picked up worldwide. But first thoughts, why did you feel the need to create Test 2020 in the already crowded ecosystem, multiple formats, etc.? People might say, "Arey, another format." Why Test 20? What is the relevance?
So I'll give you a story of where it started. So I was in Dubai in December 2024, and 6 friends sitting and just having a conversation about cricket. And I think the general talk that we have is Test is sort of losing its sheen, and ODI is almost dead. T20 is sort of all over the place. We've got T10 and all the other derivatives that you can think of. Surprisingly enough, since 2003, there's not been a real revolution outside T20. So what does it take to actually create something new and different? I think that was the conversation that we were having. And on the way to the airport is, when this thought sort of occurred, is what happens if you take the oldest form of cricket and merge it with the latest form of cricket, which is T20. So can you marry them together? And I think the idea just struck. On the flight, I started writing. These are the rules of Test, these are the rules of T20, can you sort of marry them? And I think that's where it started off. You're right in asking that question that, it's an overcrowded market, but I think the congestion is at the consumption layer. This is what the audience is watching. I think the important thing is the real gap, which exists much beneath that. And this is where, the talent is discovered, structured, scaled. If you look at the world market now, tens of millions of young kids enter the ecosystem every year. Less than 1% actually have any meaningful progress, which is quite disappointing to hear. But the fact is that the problem is not talent. Talent is available in surplus. It's just the structure which is available currently, and what needs to change. If you look at the national systems right now, everyone is sort of operating in silos, as you understand. Even within the same country, states don't really share data with each other. So we wanted to create a layer which could combine the talent from around the world into this one single unified platform, so that it is accessible, visible to the national boards, to the state associations around the world, not just in India particularly. And that's where the concept started. I said, if you're going to create an ecosystem, the important thing is to first create an interesting format. And that's where the idea of Test 20 came in, where we blended the two formats and we created something novel. Yeah, sorry.
You've got some great people on board. I mean, whether it's an AB de Villiers, whether it's Matthew Hayden, whether it's a Clive Lloyd, whether it's Mike Fordham. How did they sort of come on board? How did you reach out? Tell me a little bit of the backstory. Blending Test cricket and T20 in a single day game, and some great names to have on board. If these people are convinced, then obviously the first thought is, hey boss, there is meat in the format.
I think I'm very fortunate to have had the opportunity of bringing them on board and getting them involved. But my first conversation actually happened with Vivian Richards. So he was the first person I actually called when I put this together, and I wanted to ask, Viv, what do you think about this? And the only thing that I take from that conversation, which is such an important statement, he said, Gaurav, by doing this, you're going to allow the new generation to learn how to defend, because this generation has forgotten how to defend, right? And I think that sort of set the tone for me. And as we progressed, spoke to AB. AB was very excited because he said, when we were younger, we never had the opportunity like this. There was no ecosystem available. We were just doing what we were doing. And there came a stage where, we had the chance, but, there were plenty of other talent around us who never got that chance. So, he was very convinced. We started with AB on board. So they're a part of my board, not just as an ambassador, but also as an advisor. And then came Matthew Hayden, again, a legend in his own right. I also wanted somebody from the test era to be a part of this because, I could draw experience from, whatever they have learned. And that's where Sir Clive Lloyd came on board. So I have these three legends, powerful legends on board who are very much a part of the progress that we've had so far. And Mike, of course, from an operational level, he's obviously got tremendous experience of, putting leagues together. And I had the opportunity of bringing him on board. So operationally, we are very sound.
Yeah, I mean, clearly quite a few bases covered, boxes ticked. You have experience, credibility, all of that on board. Gaurav, third one, I mean, is this a format, an ecosystem? How does a tournament fit into all this? Can you explain the way forward? What exactly you're after?
I think, so the format is the entry point. It is like the gateway, right? And we wanted to create something different than what was already there in the market. The 80 over format is actually quite well balanced. It's shorter than a single one day. It's also, shorter than a single day test, the number of overs. So we thought 80 overs is good because if you actually look at it, it's 4 innings of 20 overs, which is as good as saying 2 T20s being played back to back, right? And the scores of the first inning sort of get carried forward to the second, and all the rules of Test and T20 would apply. We had to make some minor modifications to the rules because it's limited overs. But you have a follow-on which is possible. If you have a lead of 75 plus, you could bring follow-on. There is a draw possible, and it was the most difficult rule to bring in because we thought, how do you do a draw in a limited over? So we created something called as a conditional draw. So when you're batting last, so long as you have under 5 wickets, you are basically playing for a draw. The moment you lose your 5th wicket, then it becomes a win or loss. So that made it very exciting. We did a test match, like a practice match here in Gurgaon, and just on the last ball they lost that wicket, so they actually lost the match. They were actually going for a draw. So that just tells you, I think it'll create a lot of excitement for kids when they play this, and we have now had the opportunity of doing plenty of matches where kids have actually played this match, and
isn't that a two-edged sword, because you are going in with the youth, no real big names. Yes, I understand it, De Villiers, Lloyd and Hayden, but people playing are the youth and no big names. Is that a risk?
I don't think it's a risk if the objective is just short-term attention. Then it is a risk, but I think we are building for long-term relevance. I'm catering to the bottom of the pyramid, not at the top of the pyramid right now, because I think the bottom has a lot of depth. Unfortunately, millions of kids don't get a chance, and I'm sure you've met plenty of them who could have been great players, but they didn't get a chance. So I think that's the layer that we are focusing on, and I think when you build the foundation much stronger than what it is right now, I think I'm not worried about whether it's, because they will become stars of tomorrow. That's what we're trying to create. We're trying to open that system up, increase the funnel size, and create a global feeder line for the world market. It's not just in one country. We're opening it for the rest of the world. So I think that itself over time will become a powerful platform and a source for talent.
Don't you think, will there be a kind of apprehension on the part of national boards? Don't they already create talent pathways? Will they feel jittery? Hello, they are trying to tread into our turf, intrusions happening. Are you conscious of all of that?
No, I think I was conscious from day one. In fact, when we launched this was a question which was posed to me by one of the news channels. And I always told them, I said, national boards are doing a great job with what they do. The problem is that, even the best run boards, it's impossible to sift through millions of aspiring talent around, because humanly it's impossible to go through each one of them. And if you look at the current scouting system, the dependence that we have on a selector is so large. There is no technology being used in scouting at the moment. So what we did first is to overcome that issue of maybe personal bias, favoritism, corruption to some extent, I don't know. And this is not just an India problem, it's a global problem. So we took technology as a very important piece to be brought into scouting, which we have done now. So we've got a great motion sensor tech and AI technology which has been brought into scouting, which reduces the dependence on the human interface. We are not completely taking them off, because of course human insights is completely a unique part of scouting, but we have combined the two so that the talent actually gets an aggregate view of both technology and human interface before they get selected. So I think that is there. Now when you look at the national systems, we are basically complementing them rather than competing them in many ways, because at the end of the day, if I do find, let's say, a talent in Saurashtra today, which is probably not in the state radar, or they are not a part, maybe that chap is not a part of the domestic system, Would the state association eventually want to take that chap on board? Of course. I mean, it goes without saying, because it's impossible for them to actually sift through thousands and thousands of applications that come through. So I think people who haven't got a chance, or people who had a chance but probably didn't make it, I just believe that you should give as many opportunities to young talent before they could actually rise up. Yeah, sorry.
Is it both men and women? Only men? What's the
we are starting with boys for season 1. It is more from a broadcasting point of view, because it's a longer format, so we would need now two channels to parallelly play men and women both, or boys and girls. So in season 1 we are doing boys, but in the season 2 we will introduce girls as well.
So you will introduce girls in season
100%. In fact, I wanted to do it now, but it's just a broadcasting challenge that we may have.
But you are committed to doing that, right?
100%. In fact, we've got, I think, over 2,000 applications from fathers or parents of girls who are playing cricket, asking us to get them in. So as we speak, I must tell you, we've been very fortunate. We've had over 11,000 applications from around the world. People who have joined the ecosystem. We are undergoing trials at the moment. We've done plenty of them in India. We obviously had a little break because of board examinations. We are starting again in April. UK is tomorrow as we speak. So UK is combined is tomorrow, and lots of kids from the United Kingdom coming into this one location in Sheffield tomorrow for the combined. So yeah, very excited. We are going to do US, Canada, South Africa, one after the other. So, but yeah, I've had applications from kids from so many parts of the world. I mean, I was very surprised when I got applications from Mexico and Morocco, because I didn't know they actually played cricket. But these kids actually send their videos to us, and amazing talent. And I think this is one of the reasons why Test 20 I feel will make a huge difference, is largely because you are going to get talent from places that you never thought of. It doesn't matter who is your coach, which academy you come from, how much money you have. It's purely merit based. If you are good, just come sign up on the platform, and we are going to bring you into the trials.
Nice. So clearly you've mentioned many countries to me. So this can be globally scalable, right? And are you planning to sort of do that?
No, it is going to be globally scalable, because the challenge is universal. The scouting problem that I spoke about is universal. It's everywhere. It's not just in India. England has the same problem, with the counties involved. Australia has the same problem. So it's impossible for them to actually sift through all that applications and aspiring cricketers. So yes, we are just increasing the funnel size. So when technology comes in play, it is scalable only because tech is available. Otherwise, humanly, it's not possible. So yes, in the coming years, we see ourselves as a platform that national boards, franchisees, domestic systems could look at. When they're looking for talent, it becomes much easier for them. So it's just an extension of what they are already doing, rather than we're not coming and trying to replace them in any way.
Yeah, that's evident, and that kind of makes this different, isn't it? I mean, clearly different from what I know. I don't think there's anything like this at this point. When you're telling me about it, and I'm thinking, I think Test 20 clearly this what you're talking about, global scalability, real merit based. This makes Test 20 different.
It does, because at the moment there is no unified platform. Think about it. How interesting would it be for Indian kids to be playing in the same team with South African kids and Australian kids? They have never done that. And what we are also doing with Test 20 is that it's also going to be a touring league, which simply means that we are going to take the league every 2 years into a different nation, which simply means, again, that Indian kids will get a chance to play in the English environment, or the English kids would get a chance to play in the South African environment. And that's something which professional players anyways experience when they're traveling around. And I think that is slightly different than, typically a league is stationed to one country or a region. We want to move. The reason for moving also is that we want to encourage non-traditional nations, people who don't, or nations that don't play cricket, to actually get encouraged and start taking up cricket as a sport. And I've had the opportunity of speaking to some sports ministers in East Asia, and I was so surprised that they were all in for us to actually create a team for them at a national level, so that they can start encouraging their youngsters to come and pick up the game. So I think that's very interesting.
Nice. I read the document that you had sent me about the coach equity program. Found it fascinating. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? Because this is a first of its kind program.
It is. And it's very close to my heart. I've always believed that when it comes to talent discovery, in any sport for that, the coach plays the most significant role. The coach is also the most ignored in the value chain. because once you sort of progress from that stage and you become big, you never turn back normally and look at where the coach is. If you pick up the coaches of the current players, some of the current players in India, their business, or I don't want to call it business, but their entire academy is only being run because some of them actually made it to the national team. That's the only advantage they get. But besides that, I have not seen progress in terms of value creation for them at all. So I thought it was very important that if you are doing this for the youth, the most important factor should be a part of this journey. And I went back to the board and I said, we have to create a pool in our cap table which belongs to the coaches in the world. So the way it works is that if you are a coach and you bring in X number of kids into the system, for every child we allocate a certain number of equity points to you. By the end of the season, that gets converted into shares, and the shares are handed over to you. So for 3 years, we are making sure that you don't dilute, because the value will actually come after 3 years when you exit at a much higher valuation. And just to give you an example, if a single coach has brought in, say, about 300 kids over 3 years, they will exit at about $75,000 to $100,000 if they were to.
Wow.
So, so that itself is not just money, but it is how much value it will create for their academy, things it can do for their academy, right? And I think that is a very small contribution from us in cricket, all of us who are in cricket, to respect them. They are the guys who actually do the real job. We never go back to them and give them that respect which is due. And I thought this was just one way that we could actually say thank you to them. So yes, I'm very excited. We launched this just recently, but we've got so much of traction from coaches around the world. They've understood what it is now, and to be a part of something new, and you're holding shares of that particular tournament and ecosystem. It's not happened in any league before, so I'm very glad we did that.
Last few questions, Gaurav. One, definitely what is the player's journey from, say, registration, videos, right up to the global stage, playing, touring? Give me the timeline and give me the journey.
It's very simple, actually. You start with the registration process. You go on our website, you register yourself as a player. We then invite you for a trial. So it could be either in your city or a city closer to you. Once you come for the trial, if you get selected, it's pretty stringent, what we do in the evaluation. It's not very simple. So we've created that. So the entire scoring mechanism is also created in-house. We've had experts from cricket who actually came in, contributed to creating that entire scoring mechanism. Once that happens, and let's say you get selected, so there are two paths you can take. One is you enter the challenger pool, which is called the top 1,000 kids from around the world. So every year, what we are going to do is, we spend the entire year scouting talent, and eventually the culmination of that work and becomes the showcase, which is your Junior Test 20 Championship, the tournament. Now, the challenger pool has the top 1,000 kids from around the world every year. And from those 1,000 kids, they go through again a rigorous combined, environment. And from there, 300 kids enter the elite pool. They become draft eligible. That's where the franchisees come and actually pick the kids from. So that's typically the journey. And those who remain in the challenger pool, those are the ones who are not picked, we continue to train them, offer them, master classes. So once you join the ecosystem, you are actually a member for life. We don't just leave you because you did not get selected. We will make sure that we train you, make you better so that you can apply again next year. And we obviously don't we don't make any differentiation between whether you are selected or not. For us, every talent coming in the ecosystem is the same.
Last two questions. One, timeline. When will the thing start? Are you planning a date? Will there be
yes.
Where will it be? Which country? Where will be the first season held? Give me a sense of that. And the final question will be, if we are in the IPL season, I talk about Vaibhav 15 or Ayush 18. Will Test 20 throw up some global superstars going forward?
So I'll answer the first question. So we are going to start in August. At the moment, our timeline that we've put together is 1st August to 15th August. We want to do the finals on the 15th. So that's the timeline that we have. It's a very nice window even for the broadcaster. And this part of the world has monsoon, so we want to just avoid and see we don't get caught in the monsoon. So we are currently talking to 4 cricket boards around the world who are very interested to host us, and I will probably reveal that in the next 1 week or 10 days time. We're just in the final conversation with them. Now, coming to the IPL, of course, surprisingly, I've had 3 young boys in my mind who I want to talk about eventually in some some interview like this, and you'll probably be the one I'll be talking about. We found them in our trials in Pune and Nagpur, and I must tell you, the talent, they're outstanding. And this is not just me talking because I'm running this, but I've had this feedback from obviously experts who said that these boys are excellent. So 2 of them are batsmen, 1 is a bowler. It's basically the younger version of Jasprit Bumrah we found in Nagpur.
Wow.
And surprisingly enough, the boy is not in the domestic system. Exactly what we are trying to do. He's not come through the academy model. He doesn't have a coach. And he just happened to come because his friend actually applied on our website, and he just brought him along. So he was the buddy. And we saw him. And we gave him 6 balls, and we were so impressed we actually gave him 6 more balls. And it's amazing. I mean, that I will put that out at some point on my Instagram. But we found somebody like this. So that just tells you that this is not just India, but when we start doing this around, and I'm hopeful that tomorrow when UK happens, we'll find 1 or 2 such young stars coming out of the UK combine as well. So yes, to answer your question, hopefully in the coming years, we will have a number of these young kids who could eventually become stars and join the bigger leagues.
Fantastic talking to you. And let me say to all my viewers that, this is one concept we will back. Like Gaurav said, we've also done our due diligence. We believe there is potential. We believe that this can make a serious and tangible contribution to the ecosystem, and we can make a tangible contribution to budding talent who perhaps may not have been discovered by other people. So we will do this. We will back the league. We will continue to bring you details, backstage stories, talk to the experts, talk to the board members, obviously talk more to Gaurav, speak to some of the people who have registered, go to these scouting places, and eventually cover the tournament. So it will be a holistic kind of coverage from us as well, because people who know us will know that we will try and back every possible initiative that creates real legacy. So this is the start of a show that you will see over the next 4 to 5 months, culminating in August, wherever the tournament or wherever the event finally takes place. Gaurav Bahirvani, thank you very much for joining me for the inaugural conversation on Test 20. But like I said, I'm excited by this. We will back you wholeheartedly, and hopefully this will be a roaring success. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It is a pleasure. Thank you so much.